Hello and welcome to our workshop on the fascinating world of educational research designs. Today, we'll embark on a journey through two fundamental approaches used in educational research: the single-subject design and the between-group experiment. Our aim is to not only understand these designs, but also to apply our knowledge in a mock exam. So, let's dive in and discover how these designs help us unlock the mysteries of effective learning environments. Single-subject design focuses on the detailed observation and measurement of the behavior of individual participants over time. This design allows researchers to observe how behavior changes in response to different conditions or interventions within the same individual, emphasizing the cause-effect relationship between variables. Key points: repeated measures provide a comprehensive view of how an individual's behavior changes over time, allows for the observation of variability in behavior, and the identification of factors contributing to this variability. Employs visual analysis to demonstrate functional relationships between variables. Essential for designing personalized interventions, as it assesses how treatments affect individuals. The advantages of single-subject design: precisely identifies functional relationships between variables for individuals. Flexible design allows for ongoing adjustments to interventions. Directly observes the effect of independent variables without assuming uniformity among subjects. Disadvantages: limited generalizability to wider populations. May require more time and resources per subject. Relies heavily on the expertise of the researcher to interpret data and adjust conditions appropriately. Between-group experiment involves comparing two or more groups of subjects, typically one or more experimental groups and a control group, to examine the effect of an independent variable or variables on a dependent variable. This design utilizes statistical analysis to determine if observed differences between groups can be attributed to the independent variable. Key points: utilizes random assignment to control for pre-existing differences between subjects. Pre-test and post-test measures enable comparison of group performance before and after exposure to the independent variable. Statistical analysis helps infer the likelihood that observed differences are due to the independent variable rather than chance. While useful for generalizing findings across populations, it may obscure individual differences. Advantages: between-group experiment facilitates generalization of findings across populations. Efficient for testing hypotheses on large samples. Statistical analyses provide a clear framework for interpreting the effects of interventions. Disadvantages: individual variability is obscured by group averages. Random assignment may not always control for all confounding variables. Less flexible in adapting to participants' responses during the experiment. Why BCBA needs single-subject experiments? Behavior analysis prioritizes understanding and modifying individual behavior. Single-subject designs align with this goal by allowing behavior analysts to 1. Observe direct effects. Directly measure how interventions influence individual behavior, offering insights into the functional relationship between specific conditions and behaviors. 2. Personalize interventions. Adjust interventions based on real-time data from the individual, enhancing effectiveness. 3. Identify variability. Recognize and investigate the causes of variability in behavior, leading to a more nuanced understanding of behavior under different conditions. 4. Demonstrate functional relations convincingly. Show how changes in the independent variable produce changes in behavior through the replication within the design itself. Additional information. average performance is versus individual performance. Group averages can mask how individual subjects respond to an intervention. Some individuals may respond positively, others negatively, or not at all, which isn't visible in group data. Importance of individual-level understanding. Effective treatments should be understood and applied at the individual level, where people experience their effects directly. This is crucial for tailoring interventions to meet specific needs and conditions. Hiding intersubject variability. Group averages can hide the variability between subjects. Identifying and controlling for this variability is essential to understand the true effects of an intervention and to adapt it to individual needs. Repeated measurements and variability. Repeatedly measuring behavior allows researchers to capture and analyze variability, helping to identify factors that influence behavior. Understanding these factors can improve the effectiveness of interventions. Control of variables. In research, controlling or manipulating variables is vital to establish clear cause-effect relationships. This can involve keeping certain conditions consistent or systematically varying conditions to observe their impact. Functional relations and replication. The strength of single-subject designs lies in their ability to demonstrate functional relationships through within-design replication. This offers convincing evidence of how specific interventions influence behavior. Social significance of group performance. While individual data are crucial, the collective performance of a group can have broader social implications. Researchers may complement group data with individual results to provide a fuller picture of an intervention's impact. Limitations in experimental control. In real-world settings, controlling access to the experimental environment or identifying all individual variables can be challenging. In such cases, focusing on individual responses within those settings becomes even more important, which experiments incur relatively lower costs. Generally, single-subject design experiments tend to be more cost-effective compared to between-group experiments. This cost efficiency stems from the characteristics of single-subject design due to several reasons. Participant numbers. Single-subject experiments focus on a small number of participants, sometimes just one, resulting in lower recruitment and management costs compared to the large sample sizes needed for between-group experiments. Resource utilization. Single-subject experiments can often be conducted in everyday settings, without the need for special equipment or complex laboratory setups, leading to more economical use of resources and space. Data collection and analysis. The data collection and analysis for single-subject experiments tend to be straightforward and intuitive. The lack of need for complex statistical analysis can reduce costs related to analysis software or the need for statistical experts. Time efficiency. Single-subject experiments can collect data through repeated measures over a short period, reducing the duration and associated costs of the research process. Now let's practice with mock exams. Mock Exam 1. A behavior analyst aims to assess the effectiveness of a new behavioral intervention for increasing social skills in one child with autism. The analyst plans to closely monitor and adjust the intervention based on the child's response over time. Which research design is most suitable for this scenario? 1. Single-subject design, due to its focus on individual variability and personalization of interventions. 2. Between-group experiment, because it allows for comparison of large sample sizes. 3. Between-group experiment, as it utilizes complex statistical analysis for data interpretation. 4. Single-subject design, because it requires a large number of participants to establish generalizability. Correct answer is 1. Single-subject design, due to its focus on individual variability and personalization of interventions. The correct answer is single-subject design, because it emphasizes the detailed observation and analysis of individual behavior, allowing for the personalization and adjustment of interventions based on the subject's response. Options 2 and 3 describe attributes of between-group experiments, which are not focused on individual behavior changes and require large sample sizes. Option 4 is incorrect, as single-subject design typically involves fewer participants and focuses on in-depth analysis of individual responses. Mock Exam 2. Researchers want to evaluate the effectiveness of a new teaching method across several schools by comparing student performance in classes using the new method versus traditional teaching methods. Which research design should the researchers use to effectively compare the teaching methods across different groups? 1. Single-subject design, because it allows for detailed observation of each student's learning progress. 2. Between-group experiment, due to its ability to compare performance between the experimental group and control group. 3. Single-subject design, as it involves comparing large groups of students. 4. Between-group experiment, because it focuses on the individual behavior change in response to the teaching method. Correct answer is 2. Between-group experiment, due to its ability to compare performance between the experimental group and control group. The correct answer is between-group experiment, as it is designed to compare the outcomes of different groups, classes using the new teaching method versus those using traditional methods, and is suitable for generalizing findings across populations. Option 1 is incorrect, because single-subject design focuses on individual subjects rather than groups. Options 3 and 4 misunderstand the nature and application of both designs. Single-subject design does not typically involve large group comparisons, and between-group experiments focus on group averages rather than individual behavior changes. Mock Exam 3. A clinician wishes to determine the specific effects of a new medication on the sleep patterns of a patient with insomnia, monitoring the patient's response over several weeks. Which research design is most appropriate for analyzing the patient's response to the medication? 1. Between-group experiment, as it provides a detailed analysis of the patient's sleep patterns. 2. Single-subject design, because it focuses on repeated measures and the individual's response over time. 3. Between-group experiment, to utilize statistical methods for data analysis. 4. Single-subject design, as it requires comparing the effects of the medication across large samples. Correct answer is 2. Single-subject design, because it focuses on repeated measures and the individual's response over time. Single-subject design is the correct choice, as it allows for the observation and analysis of an individual's behavior, in this case, sleep patterns in response to an intervention medication over time. This design is ideal for tracking changes and adjusting the treatment based on individual response. Option 1 and 3 refer to between-group experiments, which are less suited for this purpose due to their focus on group comparisons rather than individual outcomes. Option 4 incorrectly suggests single-subject design requires large samples. Mock Exam 4. An educational researcher intends to evaluate the impact of technology integration in classrooms by comparing student engagement levels in classes. with technology-assisted learning to those in traditional classrooms. Which research design is best suited to determine the effectiveness of technology? Integration in enhancing student engagement? 1. Between group experiment, because it can compare outcomes between different classrooms. 2. Single subject design, due to its focus on group averages and statistical comparisons. 3. Between group experiment, as it emphasizes the detailed observation of behavior in individual classrooms. 4. Single subject design, because it involves the comparison of large groups to establish cause-effect relationships. Correct answer is 1. Between group experiment, because it can compare outcomes between different classrooms. Between group experiments are ideal for this scenario because they allow researchers to compare two or more groups that have been exposed to different conditions. In this case, one group would be exposed to technology-assisted learning and the other group to traditional classroom methods. This design makes it possible to isolate the effect of technology integration on student engagement by comparing the engagement levels of the two groups. Mock Exam 5. Which statement does not accurately describe a between-group experiment? 1. Data are collected by observing the behavior of individual organisms over time. 2. Participants are divided randomly into an experimental group and a control group. 3. Statistical tests are used to compare changes in group scores from pre-test to post-test. 4. The mean performance of each group is calculated and compared to infer the effect of the independent variable. Correct answer is 1. Data are collected by observing the behavior of individual organisms over time. This statement accurately describes a single-subject experiment, not a between-group experiment. Between-group experiments focus on comparing the performance of groups, not on detailed observation of individual behavior over time. Mock Exam 6. Which aspect is primarily emphasized in single-subject experiments, but not in between-group experiments? 1. Utilizing random assignment to create experimental and control groups. 2. Directly observing the effect of independent variables on individuals. 3. Calculating the means and standard deviations for each group. 4. Applying statistical tests to infer the effect of the independent variable. Correct answer is 2. Directly observing the effect of independent variables on individuals. Direct observation of individual responses to interventions is a hallmark of single-subject experiments. Between-group experiments primarily focus on statistical comparisons between groups, not on the direct observation of individual participants. Mock Exam 7. Which statement is not typically associated with between-group experiments? 1. Allows for ongoing adjustments to interventions based on the subject's response. 2. Efficient for testing hypotheses on large samples. 3. Facilitates generalization of findings across populations. 4. Individual variability is obscured by group averages. Correct answer is 1. Allows for ongoing adjustments to interventions based on the subject's response. The ability to make ongoing adjustments to interventions based on individual responses is a feature of single-subject experiments. Between-group experiments, due to their structure, do not typically allow for such personalized adjustments during the experiment. Mock Exam 8. Which scenario best demonstrates the need for understanding treatment effects at the individual level? A principle of single-subject experiments? 1. Calculating the average increase in test scores for students exposed to a new teaching method. 2. Observing how a specific teaching strategy affects a student's engagement in real time. 3. Comparing the overall effectiveness of two different curriculum approaches on student performance. 4. Using statistical analysis to determine if changes in group performance are significant. Correct answer is 2. Observing how a specific teaching strategy affects a student's engagement in real time. This scenario underscores the single-subject experiment's focus on the individual level impact of interventions. The other options relate to between-group experiments,
which assess effectiveness through statistical means and group comparisons.
Mock Exam 9. Which statement accurately reflects a disadvantage of between-group experiments, not typically found in single-subject experiments? 1. Requires a large sample size, potentially increasing recruitment and management costs. 2. Focuses on detailed observation and analysis of individual behavior over time. 3. Employs straightforward and intuitive data collection and analysis methods. 4. Offers insights into the functional relationship between specific conditions and behaviors. Correct answer is 1. Requires a large sample size, potentially increasing recruitment and management costs. The need for a large sample size, with associated higher costs, is a challenge of between-group experiments. Single-subject experiments, focusing on individuals or small numbers of participants, tend to be more cost-effective and resource-efficient, contrary to options 2, 3, and 4, which describe advantages of single-subject experiments. That's all today. I hope you understand better between the single-subject design and the between-group experiment. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe channel. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.